Welcome to the First of His Name podcast based on the Game of Thrones series from HBO. My name is Tone Roy.
My name is Sheldon Calhoun.
Right on. That's Sheldon Calhoun and Tone Roy, if you didn't hear the first time. All right. So we're here to talk about Game of Thrones overall, correct? So Game of Thrones is based on George R.R. Martin's best-selling book series, A Song of Fire and Ice, that is brought to screen by HBO. It's a depiction of two powerful families, king and queens, knights and renegades, liars and honest men, playing a deadly game for control of the seven kingdoms of Westeros and to sit atop of the Iron Throne.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you want to tell the people how you first came across the show? You think I should start with that?
I mean, you can start.
Okay. Well, I first came across. I heard about the show from a friend. From actually my brother, my cousin, and my friend. They were all watching it, and I was like, "What are these dudes, getting into?" You know what I'm saying? So I didn't know anything about the show at first. First of all, before we confuse any of the audience that's watching, this show is about the TV series, and I think you said that in the beginning. It has nothing to do with the books.
It's the series based from HBO.
Obviously, it has a lot to do with the books, but this podcast in particular is about the TV series from the HBO portion of it. So I learned about
at least for now.
Yeah, at least for now, until we tap into the books. That's a whole nother situation. Right. But I learned about the show through these guys, and when I first learned about it, it was already about season 5. It was already about season 5, so it was already out for maybe like 5 years before I even learned about it.
Okay.
So once I finally got into it, I went back and I started from the beginning, which is what we're going to talk about in a couple of seconds. I learned about it from season 1, episode 1, all the way up until season 8, season 7, something like that. So
it was season 8. I think it was 8 or 10 episodes in the last season.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, man, that's how I learned about it, and I didn't fell in love with it since, man. Like I didn't became like a Game of Thrones fanatic. I didn't seen the show maybe 20 times. How did you come?
Right? Yeah, fully. Yeah, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. So you weren't an original season 1, 2000. No. What was it? 9, 2010, 11. Yeah, you weren't an original guy, right? You weren't an original fandom. Right.
I was a sophomore in high school in 2011. Man, I wasn't thinking about no damn Game of Thrones.
That makes sense based on your generation and where you line up, what your interests are. Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I've known about Game of Thrones since 2011, since it first started, first season, second season. Heard some things about it. I didn't get into Game of Thrones until Game of Thrones was off the air.
Gotcha.
So I consumed Game of Thrones as a binge watcher, so to speak, right? So I was able to see the entire world of Westeros and Essos and the dragons and the this and the kingdoms and the usurpers and the rebellions. And I was able to, all the bastards and all of that shit, I was able to see that from 3-week time frame, right? So I didn't have to
6 years, 7 years
every week, and then 5 months off, and then they come back with some episodes, and then it's 8 months off, and then it's a writer strike, and then it's this and it's that. Exactly. I didn't have to deal with any of that. So my ability to speak to the show is different than those that literally had, because you had to be a real fan in order to go through week after week in between seasons and checking out the new season premiere and keeping track of it. You really had to care about this enough. I was fortunate enough where I could just binge it and just get it all out the way in like a month, 3 weeks to a month, So that's how I consumed it. That's how I came across it. But by the time I was halfway through the first season, I had the mentality of someone that watched it week by week.
Mm-hmm.
because every episode I wanted to see more, but it was 10 seconds in between episode 1 and episode 2, but you have to wait a week, or others have to wait a week. Sometimes in between seasons, you got to wait 4 or 5 months, depending on.
It's so interesting after that first episode. That's why I don't understand how people that don't like the show or haven't seen the show. Well, if you haven't seen the show, then you don't know what you're missing, obviously. But if you have watched episode 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe, and you be like, "Well, I just couldn't get into it." I don't see what would spark your interest then, because I don't know.
I think the fact that it as writers do for series the same way other series, if I say Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, all the Marvel stuff, the groundwork you have to lay for the origin has a lot of telling who Arya is, who is this person, who's Peter Baelish, who's Varys, who's Tyrion, who's Tywin. We didn't see Tywin until the end of the first season, basically, right? So what I mean by that is there's a groundwork that has to be laid, and it kind of can feel boring if you're not quite ready to consume all of this talking.
Okay. I like the dialogue.
We get a head chop first 10 minutes of episode 1. I love dialogue, and I'm a writer, so you know what I mean. I always take the side of a writer versus a consumer, just in the specific thought or mind frame of you're trying to write something and give it to another entity to direct it, produce it, and create it. Most writers don't write, produce, direct, and act in or star in their own works. They actually write it for others, which is why you have a writer room. The writer's room is where all of that started, right? So the origin story and telling us who Jaime is, who Cersei is, who Tyrion, we got to figure out all of the Lannisters. We got to figure out how the Lannisters fit in this world. We got to understand the Starks, how they fit in this world, right? And then the Ned Stark, head of the Stark house, and then Robert Baratheon, head of the seven kingdoms. His hand died. Now he wants him. It's just it has to lay the foundation to get to it. But we had a beheading in the first 15 minutes. We had a fucking possessed little exorcist looking girl. When they turned the wildlings into White Walkers in the beginning. So it was like, I can't get into it.
Now that we already tapping into it, let's tap into it. Season 1, episode 1, which is titled "Winter is Coming." This is
Winter is coming.
This is the series premiere of Game of Thrones, the first that the world has seen from Game of Thrones on HBO.
Right.
So in this episode, what happens is I give you the short description, and then we'll talk about it in detail. The short description is Robert Baratheon shows up to King's Landing, and it's a long way from King's Landing to Winterfell. Winterfell is like in the north. King's Landing is like at the south, the bottom.
Very south. Yeah, that's like a month's journey.
If you think of a map, you think of Alaska to Florida.
Basically.
Think of it like that. So
that's a good breakdown. I like the way you describe that. Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty much, the king is coming from Alaska all the way to Florida to ask his best friend to come help him run the kingdom, pretty much,
right.
Because his first advisor / hand of the king has passed away. From what he he passed away. According to what we know in the beginning of the show, he passed away from an illness. But what we later learned that he was poisoned by a poison that was as tasteless and clear as water, right?
And who is he?
This is Jon Arryn. Arryn, Lord Jon Arryn, the Lord of the Vale, and the Hand of the King, and the Eyrie.
Right.
So also what we learned in the first episode was that a Night's Watch member, and the Night's Watch is pretty much a place where men go to serve out the rest of their time, if you will. Like most people that go into the Night's Watch are people who did illegal things, and then they have to answer for it. And if they don't want to answer for it, the way they could, have their punishment is by joining the Night's Watch. Like, say somebody was to steal something, and instead of getting their hand chopped off, they had to join the Night's Watch. This
Right.
was, I felt like that would have been a better example to explain to y'all.
Alternative punishment kind of deal,
Exactly.
but you still have to take an oath. What was the oath of the Night's Watch? Not the specific oath, but what were they emboldened to?
Well, pretty much they were the watchers on the wall. They were guarding the wall to make sure no wildlings and no savages got through the wall. You know what I'm saying? They was protecting every kingdom in Westeros by being part of the Night's Watch, because nobody knows what lies beyond the wall except the people in the Night's Watch, and they don't even know what lies beyond the wall because they don't go past the wall, because they
right. But as we described the Night's Watch, though, they had to give up their name. I mean, they had to give up their rights to lands. They had to make a pledge and never land with a woman and creating kids. They couldn't own lands. The Night's Watch were the thieves, the potential murderers, and you know what I mean?
It's almost crazy that they have almost the same vows as somebody in the King's Guard. You know?
Similar. Yeah.
Very similar vows, because they got to give up. They can't hold no titles, like you said, no lands. They can father no children. They can take no wife. Their name no longer means anything within the politics of things, because you got Sir Jorah Mormont, who is Sir Jorah Mormont, but he the
right. Whoa! Before we get it right. Before we get into that though, right? Before we get into that far, we gotta kind of, because what we're doing, right? We trying to break down what the episode was about, and then we're gonna kind of go in a little detail of what happened. So it's the overall description, which was, like you said, Robert Baratheon
showed up to King's Landing, and we learned that Ned Stark, Lord of the Winterfell, Warden of the North, he heard disturbing reports from a Night's Watch deserter. Now, if you desert the Night's Watch, you automatically, that's treason. So you got to get you got to die. You know what I mean? If you become a deserter of the Night's Watch, or then Ned Stark had to, pretty much behead him for deserting the Night's Watch.
But what was Ned Stark's his feelings or terminology or mind frame about beheading someone?
Oh, well, he said this. He mentioned this multiple times throughout the series, and his sons after him also repeated his words. The one who passes the sentence should swing the sword. So the sentence was, if you're a deserter of the Night's Watch, you have to, get your head cut off, pretty much, or hanging, however they do it. But Ned Stark was the one who ended up cutting the guy's head off. But before he did that, the disturbing reports that he got was he seen the Night's Watch deserter told Ned Stark, but right before he cut his head off, that he seen White Walkers.
What do you think Ned thought about that? Because I mean, he ultimately beheaded him because of what he had to do. But
Ned thought he was a madman. Thought he was crazy.
He thought he was insane. He thought he was crazy. Yeah, and then he was a weak coward who deserted, so he didn't really take it.
Night's Watch.
Anybody
who deserts the Night's Watch automatically is looked at as if you craven. You know what I'm saying? Like you cowardly, like
mentally insane. I got you.
Exactly. And for you to come and tell the Lord of Winterfell and the Warden of the North that you've seen this thing that nobody in the world has seen in the last 1,000 years.
Well, yeah, outside of Rangers and Wildlings, that's true.
No one
outside of the Rangers from the Night's Watch and the Wildlings were the only ones that could even speak of it. Exactly. And the Children of Men, of course, but they come along a lot later.
Yeah, but that's a different thing. Only thing people know about White Walkers and all of the stuff beyond the wall is what they wet nurse, or they what do you call it? The person that you, what do you call it? The person that they
midwife.
The midwife, the wet nurse and the midwife. That's the only thing that people know about White Walkers is the stories that they was told as children growing up. You know what I'm saying? Right. So for this person to come and say that he's seen one of these things that hasn't been seen in over thousands of years, he has to be crazy. Right?
Very true. Right. So
in the first, no, go ahead, my bad.
No, you good. Take it on.
I I got a few things I was gonna say. So pretty much, some of the things that was revealed to us in the first episode, we learned about the Stark family.
Right.
We learned about the whole Stark family. We learned about
Who was the Stark family?
The Stark family is the most northern kingdom. I'm sorry. The Stark family lives in the most northern kingdom, which is Winterfell. Winterfell is the biggest kingdom in Westeros.
Right.
I'm sorry, Winterfell is where the biggest kingdom in Westeros is, which is the north.
Right, because the north is bigger than all of the other 6 kingdoms combined.
All 6 kingdoms combined, the north.
Right, we got to make that distinction, like geographically in Westeros, the north is a bigger kingdom than all of the 6 other totaling 7 kingdoms there are.
So if we were talking about the United States, the north would be considered Texas or California because they're the biggest states in the United States. So let's just put
Texas. You know what? No, I'll even make a better description than that. What I'll say is, if you look at the United States, the north is all of the West Coast to the mid to like the top of Florida, and then you cut off half of that, and Midwest. You go from New Jersey or Philadelphia down to Florida, over to Georgia a little bit, that little sliver. Mm-hmm. That's what it would look like if you're looking at a U.S. map. Honestly, from what I've seen, the way they describe it,
that's a much better
description. It's a vast. It's just cold and it's dense and it's so much land that the smaller areas in the other 6 kingdoms just have more people in it. It don't even have more people technically, but it's just more known and there's more money there technically.
And I also want to say this: when we first started, you described it as two powerful families. I had I don't know if they just meant Stark and like Lannister, but it was much more than just 2 powerful families. You got
I think that was the Targaryen name, and because it comes from the Song of Fire and Ice, the overall series of books, and the biggest 2 names in that, in my opinion, are Stark and Targaryen.
Okay.
Starks are bigger than Lannisters in the actual books that the HBO series was based on, upon. Yeah, You know what I mean? So the writings on the Starks, the depth that they got into those characters, the importance of those characters was much more prevalent or more prioritized than the Lannisters were. Even though the Lannisters had their time, it's Targaryen, Stark, Lannister, if we were to look at houses and actual names on the outside of the HBO series. But within the HBO series, it was Stark, Lannister, then Targaryen, because there was only a couple Targaryens in Game of Thrones.
3 altogether.
Exactly.
So, right. That's
4, Aemon. Mace Daemon.
Yeah, you're right. Damn. Okay, there you go. Yeah. That's what I was gonna say, man. So we pretty much learned about the Starks, the Lannisters. So what we want to let the people know is, why did King Robert show up to Winterfell? Like, what was his reason for going all the way from Alaska to Florida, as I described it earlier?
A month journey on horses and wagons. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Well, he king, so he was riding in the most comfortable seat you can ride in on the way.
True, but it's still a month on the road. Exactly. You know what I mean? Even Michael Jackson got tired of being on the road for 5 months. You dig? Even with airplanes,
I absolutely love it.
Leather seats and fucking plush cush shit. Motherfucker get tired of all that road traveling stuff. But the point was, again, like you mentioned, John Aaron passed away.
And who was John Aaron?
John Aaron was the Lord of the Vale from the Eyrie, who was the hand of the king, which is, like it sounds, the king's right-hand man. And he passed away, and Robert Baratheon traveled to Winterfell to get Ned Stark to become his hand to the king. Yep. They were friends from the Trident, the Robert's Rebellion. We'll get into that later. That was a battle that technically was 17 years and some change
17 years before the
prior
events
to
of Game of
the
Thrones.
episode 1. So the
Yep.
episode 1 of Game of Thrones, the story is starting and giving us the present tense of the story of the world, but it's referring to 17 years prior, where it started with Robert's Rebellion.
Now, these guys haven't seen each other in the last 17 years. The last time they seen each other was during the rebellion. The last time, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right after he took the crown. Yeah, right after Robert took the throne, Ned and Robert have been kind of communicating through ravens and hearsay, to be honest with you. 17 years.
They've seen each other in 17 years, which is a very
They don't even know each other kids, bro. They meeting each other kids for the very first time when Robert shows up to Winterfell.
But these dudes was best friends growing up. You know what I'm saying? Robert Baratheon was promised to Ned Stark's sister, Lyanna Stark. And that's how
he actually was in love with her deeply.
He actually was. And that's how the events of Robert's Rebellion happened, which we'll get into later. Right now, we're focusing on episode 1. You know what I'm saying? So when he gets to King's Landing, when Robert Baratheon, the king, when he comes to Winterfell, how do they greet him? Like how is he greeted? How do you, to show the people the type of power that he got, what happens when he comes there?
Oh, when Robert show up, he show up with his whole cavalry, his whole army, his Kingsguard, and then them Lannisters. The gold-head Lannisters, right? And then they kind of pop out on some, hey, what's up with you? Oh, you got fat. You look old. You know what I mean? They came, and in this world,
as if they were good friends.
As if, I'm saying they was messing with us and the crowd, in my opinion.
They was.
Robert said something, Ned said something, and then they embracing each other. And the first thing Robert wanted to do was go to the crypt to see Lyanna's tomb.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it goes from there, and then it spreads out. And if you don't mind, I want to just kind of pinpoint some of the scenes without going into many detail, and we can just cover what we've seen based on the notes I've taken.
Okay.
Right from there, Tyrion, we meet Tyrion, right? The Little Lord. Yeah. We meet the Hound. We meet Joffrey. There's various scenes in which they interact, but from Ned and Robert's initial greet at in Winterfell to going down to the crypt, you got not a lot of Cersei. Not a lot of Jamie, but we meet Arya, we meet Sansa, we meet Jon Snow, we meet Robb, we meet Theon, we meet Bran, and then little Rickon, which was a kid. I don't even think that was the original
Arya?
Kid. Yeah, Arya, Sansa. Arya, Sansa.
Robb, you said Robb, right?
Robb, Jon Snow, the bastard.
So we meet the whole Stark family, and we pretty much meet the whole Lannister family.
Except for Tywin.
Except Lord Tywin, because he was.
That's the only one we know, because he's still back in Castle Rock.
Castle Rock, right?
Yeah.
So now, in this first episode, what is Robert asking Ned? Like, what is like you said, his whole point of this coming to ask him to be Hand of the King. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, the Hand of the King mean he has to leave his Warden of the North posts. That he've held for so many years, right? I mean, and go to King's Landing to be the Hand of the King to help run the 7 kingdoms.
So he pretty much got to make that trip from Alaska to Florida. I'm sorry, from Florida to Alaska. Now he got to go back to Florida.
Because it's north-south. The Alaska, even though Alaska to Florida would be,
a quick trip, but we're talking about Westeros, so it's gonna be 25 days to get from here to here.
No, I'm just saying, like, I was just trying to point out the difference between Alaska being the north as it's cold.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And then Florida being the south where King's Landing is. So Robert went from Florida to Alaska.
We should have described we should have described the north as Antarctica.
Hey, I mean, that's a different direction, but it's tropical. I mean, temperature-wise, climate-wise, Florida is the South where King's Landing is, and then
Alaska is Winterfell.
Winterfell would be Alaska.
Well,
yeah, so that's a good, the direction don't matter, but the space, the distance between the two, and the difference in the climate.
I feel like the people gonna know what we're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Now, so he's asking him to pretty much uproot his home and go to King's Landing and run his kingdom for him.
Right. Within this tale, let's break down like lineage in these stories, right? Because you have a lord or a father who could be a king. Robert's a king. Robert Baratheon is a king. He has a wife. He has kids, right? So there's a hierarchy between the king, the hand of the king, because it took me a while to realize that if the king dies, the hand of the king,
we talking about the chain of command, right?
Right, the chain of command, and then the lineage, like who gets the throne next, the lineage of So the same thing. Robert needed Ned Stark because he's the only man he can trust since Jon Arryn has died.
Mm-hmm.
Robert don't even think or consider that Jon Arryn was poisoned in mysterious causes. He's dead. I need someone that I can trust.
And
I don't recall a time where
Jon Arryn, because Jon Arryn was loved by all people. Everybody loved the hand of the king. So for him to just mysteriously die or just mysteriously get sick, Robert, like you said, he didn't think nothing of it. He was like, well, he didn't think no foul play was going on. So, he was like, fuck, I need my friend.
Right, but to go from Jon Arryn mysteriously dying quick too, it was a quick death, right? He fell ill and he was gone fast. Robert needed someone that he could trust. And as the king, he could come and tell Ned Stark, leave your family, come to King's Landing and work for me. This is an order from your king. You're my friend. I still love your sister to this day, but do what I say.
What else can you say? He could have said no. He could have said no, but
what comes from that though?
I was just gonna say it wouldn't have went over well for him if he'd have said no. You know what I mean? Like, you can't refuse the king.
No way. No, you're not refusing the king. And then Mr. Loyal, Honorable Ned Stark was not gonna come on.
Not the honorable Ned.
Not the overall honorable, the most thoroughly honorable person in the series. No, that's not gonna happen.
I knew he was gonna do it when I first seen it. You know what I'm saying? So obviously the show has to go on. So we learned that Jaime Lannister and Cersei Lannister.
Oh, don't go. No, not yet.
Okay.
You talking about related to Jon Arryn or the other thing?
I was gonna say related to Jon Arryn. We learned that.
Okay, you go. Don't go past that then.
I was gonna say we learned that in the first episode. I feel like we learned that they had something to do with Jon Arryn's death.
Right. The first scene we met Cersei and Jaime, they were at Jon Arryn's funeral in the Sept or whatever that place is called. Sept the Baylor. They specifically directly talked about people finding out that they had something to do with it and worrying about a war starting or people taking sides between one and the other, but tell the people why they were worried about people finding out whatever Jon Arryn knew.
Oh, well, well, the reason
who were Jaime Lannister and Cersei Lannister? Let's start with there. Where they come from birth?
Jaime Lannister and Cersei Lannister are the kids of Tywin Lannister, who is Lord of Casterly Rock.
But what are they to each other?
They are twins, brother and sister.
There we go. Twin brother, twin sister.
So that being said, Jon Arryn, what he was doing, what ultimately ended up getting him poisoned, he was going around and he was checking on every bastard that Robert Baratheon had. Like, Robert Baratheon was the king, and obviously the king has many Gumars, if you will, in the
Yeah, for
Sopranos.
lack of a better term, yeah,
In the
that led
Sopranos,
to illegitimate children, which is
he's
what they
had
call the bastard.
he had 20 illegitimate children, 20
Yep.
altogether. And we learned that from the witch. He had 20 illegitimate children altogether. And what John Aaron was doing, he thought he was doing something good. He was going around just, making sure all of the bastard babies was taken care of. You know what I mean?
But wait, where did that start though? Because it's similar to the same journey Ned went through once he got to King's Landing.
Absolutely.
Which is what? Going through them books.
But it didn't. Well, it started from there with John
With
Aaron.
Ned. No, right now, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. What was it about the books that made him even go out and start checking on the bastard kids?
See, the reason that he started doing that was because we don't know for sure, but John Aaron had to have some type of doubt in his mind about King Robert's kids being related to him.
Because of what?
Because of the color of their hair.
There we go. Yeah, I'll try to get you there. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. So see, in the book, they have this book about the lineages and the descriptions of each house in Westeros. So if you look at the lineages of the Stark family, you will see that Lord Cregan Stark, mother was whatever Stark and father was whatever Stark, and they all had the same descriptions as far as the father's hair was black, the mother's hair was black. So that means this kid's hair has to be black. You know what I'm saying? So when
before all that genetic science and DNA test, that's how they
DNA. That's how people used to be able to describe people in their families. So you got Targaryen, you got Maegor Targaryen and Rhalysa Targaryen, and then they made Baelor Targaryen. All of their hair silver, every last one of them. And that's how you know that they related. Now,
but when it turns into a problem, what makes it the problem?
Now the problem was when John Aaron looked at Joffrey Baratheon, which is King Robert's son, or supposed to be, and
oldest son, heir to the throne.
Oldest son and heir to the Iron Throne. When he looked at him, he saw that he had golden hair.
And
but nobody in Robert's family has golden hair. Not him, not his father, not his two brothers that we learned about in the series. Neither one of them. Only
dark hair, dark eyes.
Only person that had golden hair is the Lannister family. Only person that had golden hair is the Lannister family. That's the only person in the series.
That's the only family in the entire series that had golden hair. Then there was the Targaryens with the white hair, and everybody else fell in between the redheads and the light brunettes,
black hair,
exactly, black hair, curly hair.
So the reason John Aaron ended up getting poisoned was because he found the book and he started asking too many questions.
And then he started going out looking. That's how they really found out where the bastards were, because they was the Whisperer, Master Whispers had people following him. He was connected to all that, right?
Lord Varys. And it's crazy that Lord Larys is the nigga name that's the Master of Whispers in House of Dragon.
And this one, it's so simplistic, but if you're interested enough, you almost don't think about Rhaenys, Rhaenyra, Baela, Baelina, Baelar, Baelish, Rhaenys.
It's too many names.
You get, Varys and Viserys.
It's almost like the mafia. You got Paulie and Paul and little Paul.
And then little Paulie and yeah.
It's almost like that, man. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly like that. Anthony, Tony, little Tony, big Tony, fat Tony.
Exactly.
Like, what the hell? But let's not forget, as we going down this journey right quick, right? Let's not forget when we meet Viserys and Daenerys, right?
Oh yeah, no doubt. In the first
only original Targaryens in the first episode in Game of Thrones, from the very first episode.
And they was mentioned. They was also mentioned in the second episode by King. But let's stick to the first one for now. I'm
No, I'm
sorry.
saying you
I'm going
remember
too far.
Tyrion. That's all good. Tyrion was in the brothel, and then Jaime was coming to tell him that they needed to come to the feast with the Starks. And Tyrion was like, "I got stuff to do," and Jaime was like, "I
He said,
figured you
I
say that."
thought
And
you would say that. So
he
in
brought a
about
whole crew of
6 more
chicks in there. Yeah, so he did his thing, and then the very next scene after that, we cut to Viserys and Daenerys.
Yep, and she stepped into a hot bath, like
Or
scorching
out
hot.
of one. That was when he was stroking her arm and pulling her clothes off. Like, I don't care if he told her he let her 40,000 of them go at her before he give up. What? When he said that and he stroked her in the way he was look, I got in parentheses here. Did Viserys and Daenerys have a Jaime Cersei thing going on?
No, they did. They did.
You don't think so?
No, they didn't. But in that scene, it would make you
It
think
appeared that way. That's why I threw it in
it
the
would appear that
parentheses,
way
the
for sure.
parentheticals.
It would appear that way for sure. But I mean, you never know though. They may have. I mean, that's what the Targaryens do.
True. That's very true. You know what I mean? They married a Targaryen that was boning another Targaryen at least. Yes. The whole what you called it the other day, keeping the bloodline pure.
Yeah. Keep the bloodline pure.
Time out. Give me 30 seconds. I gotta check on something. My bad. Hold on. My bad. I know we live. Hold on.
Just gonna leave while we live, huh? Just leave me on here by myself. You know what, man? I'll talk about it. Yeah, so pretty much, you know what I'm saying? We talking about Game of Thrones and the Lords of Winterfell and the Lords of Casterly Rock, and you got the Lords of Storm's End, the Lords of the Reach, got the Lords of Harrenhal in there. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna learn about all that in a minute. You know what I'm talking about? What else we got up on there? Oh, he back. I ain't even know he was back. I was sitting here talking to myself and to the people about just the Lords of Casterly Rock.
Oh shit, that's why I told you. Hold on.
Yeah, the Lords of Storm's End, the Lords of Harrenhal, the Lords of the Reach, all of that.
Oh, hold on. How we get
but
there?
I told him we was gonna get into all of that at some other point. I was just trying to keep it going until you got back. But now you back. What was we at?
Oh shit, we just go back 3, 2, 1, and then I'll edit that out. All right. So we was talking about Viserys. So I'm gonna go 3, 2, 1, and then you pause for a second, and then we go talk about Khal Drogo and the Dothraki. That's cool. All right. 3, 2, 1.
Daenerys and Viserys. So Daenerys and Viserys are both Targaryens who pretty much got taken out of power by Robert Baratheon because he came and usurped the Iron Throne from the Mad King, who they call Aerys Targaryen. Aerys Targaryen is the father of Daenerys and Viserys, who were exiled pretty much from King's Landing because Robert Baratheon promised that he would kill every Targaryen that he can get his hands on. So they somehow escaped the king's justice, you know. Mm-hmm. And the next time we see them is not in Westeros, but on the other side of Westeros in Pentos. We see them in Pentos, and they're at this guy whose name is Illyrio Mantos, if I'm not mistaken. Illyrio something. Mm-hmm. He is friends with the Master of Whispers, and he was helped by the Master of Whispers to sneak Viserys and Daenerys out of King's Landing when they were attacked.
Right.
So
during the Robert's Rebellion.
So what we know about Viserys and Daenerys is Viserys is the true born son to the Mad King and the heir to the Iron Throne.
Right.
So he's pretty much trying to build an army to take back his father's throne. And he does this by selling his sister, Daenerys Targaryen, to a Dothraki horse lord a cow, which is a king in Dothraki terms, Khal Drogo. And he has, as it's been said, 40,000, an army of 40,000 at his back. So
Right.
Viserys believes that if he sells his sister Daenerys to this Dothraki horse lord, he can now become king and have an army of 40,000 Dothrakians at his back. So that's his whole
Right,
plan.
but as far as think about it, break it down for the people. When you bring up Dothraki, what's the difference between a Dothraki army and a King's Guard or a Northern army? Or
Now,
right,
the Dothrakians are people who are from across the Narrow Sea, meaning that they're not from Westeros. Westeros is like more of a what do you call it? Civilized
uppity,
country.
snooty. You can say
No,
civilized, yeah, because the Dothraki and the
I was just
Pentos,
gonna say,
that's a lot
yeah,
of savage shit going on.
exactly.
They some savages over there, bro.
Exactly. They and Westeros is much more civilized, and like he said in Dothraki, they savages and they brutes, and you know, they have I put it like this: they have sex under the sun for everybody out there to see them having sex. So that gives you the type of society that they grow up in.
Right, yeah.
That
It's a
just gives
different
you
world.
a description of the society that they grow up in. They don't wear armor when they fight. They have no honor when it comes to fighting, and you know they Dothrakians, they rape women by the thousands. They pillage and slaughter cities.
Right.
That's like they thing that they do. The only people that can
That's
be
their
compared,
culture. That's their way of doing things.
yeah, that's their
Is
way
to
of
take
life.
your shit, take your wife, take your people, slaves, take your horses, take your. They don't even stay nowhere in one place, so they not taking your land.
Exactly.
You dig
So
what I'm saying? They
they
just
take
taking
whatever they can.
whatever they want.
Only people in Westeros that can probably be compared to them are the Ironborn and probably the Wildlings.
Right,
You
yeah,
know,
we'll get to that though. We'll get to that though. So the point of the whole, like what I wanted to bring up with showing Viserys and Daenerys connected with the Dothraki was that you mentioned that she was promised to Khal Drogo, which is the leader of the Khalasar, which is what the Dothraki army is, thousands and thousands upon thousands on horseback, savages, killing, maiming, raping, robbing, stealing throughout. So Viserys
anything illegal that you can think of, they did it.
definitely throughout overall to each other, to others, whatever. Right. So Viserys promised Daenerys to Khal Drogo in order for Khal Drogo to give him the army he needed so that he can travel back to Westeros to take the retake, I guess you would say, the Iron Throne for the Targaryen house.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the overall,
that's his
what
whole
we
that's his
saw.
whole point of living.
Right. So from there, we see we meet Jon Snow. Well, Tyrion and Jon Snow meet each other, which if we look for the first time, if we look at what's gonna be, this initial meeting was, I think it was a balanced level of take a shot and then find some respect for each other, which a lot of men didn't do in Game of Thrones, Westeros, just off the simple fact of at any point someone was above the other. But at Castle Black, when they first met, that wasn't the case.
That's true.
They were equals where they were from. Lord Tyrion was an equal where he was from, but he wasn't an equal at Castle Black. He only got that privilege because of who he was.
Or because of who his sister was.
Well, yeah, who his sister was with, and her husband and all that connection. The queen, of course, right? So from Jon and Tyrion meeting, we see Ned and Benjen. One of the only interactions between Ned and his brother Benjen.
I think that was probably the only interaction that we ever seen with them two. Yeah,
he wasn't. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Because Benjen wasn't. He was at the Castle Black.
That was the only time we ever seen them two connect with each other or on screen together.
And that was at the feast at King's Landing. At Winterfell, when Benjen was on his way back to Castle Black.
Exactly.
Which Castle Black is one of the castles of the Wall. It's like 8 of them. Was it 8 or 9?
No, it's 18 of them bitches.
18. Okay, I'm mistaken. So it's Castle Black was the main one at the
Castle
Wall.
Black,
Lord
everyone
Commander.
knows Castle Black.
Yeah, right.
You got East Watch by the Sea. You got, I can't name them all. I won't even try.
And so what I'll say is the next scene was of the beginning of one of the most diabolical storylines in Game of Thrones, which was Cersei meeting Sansa. What we got going on?
Trying to put it on the charger.
Why they been on the charger the whole time? That shit been in place.
No, it ain't been charging because if I put it on the charger, this motherfucker gonna get hot.
Oh, okay.
I ain't got no choice now because I'm only on like 6%.
Oh shit, we probably I don't know how long that 6% gonna last you.
I'm decent right now. I got it charging.
All right, so sir, what I was saying was I think one of the storylines was how Cersei treated and did Sansa, and I think it's funny. It is at the feast. It was ironic how Catelyn didn't care for Cersei, not much anyway, right?
Not at all. You can.
She didn't know. And she hadn't been in King's Landing as long as Ned had been in King's Landing. So it was no real connection, like they saw each other often, or it was this thing where, Catelyn Stark was the wardeness of the North. She was the second, you know what I mean, basically in charge, technically, not militarily, but the way Sansa sucked up to Cersei.
Yeah, because Catelyn, I feel like he was doing that because she liked Joffrey, or you know what I'm saying. At some point, she knew she was gonna be promised to him. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what Robert wanted.
Right. I'm just referring to the distinction between Catelyn playing nice with Cersei and Cersei being a jerk to her, and then Sansa playing nice and Cersei being a jerk to her. Because Cersei was a bitch basically to everybody that other than Jaime and her kids, basically. So the dynamic of Catelyn, Cersei, Sansa in that moment at the feast was Sansa was so doe-eyed and she was, oh, my queen, and you have to make sure you make me a dress like that. You made it yourself, and like they went through this whole thing where Sansa was like, the queen, I'll be the queen one day, or that'll be my mother-in-law, whatever. I don't know if they called it in-laws back then. I've never heard it. It's not in-laws. It ain't even a sense of in-laws.
No, they did say that father by law.
Well, by law, yeah, not in-law. So yeah, it's the same but different, right? So,
remember when Varys told Joffrey, Lady Sansa is your aunt by marriage, by law. Some shit he said, because he said he was gonna serve with a head at the wedding feast or whatever.
I ain't hear that. Say that again.
No, I was saying because the reason I remember is because remember when Varys was pretty much telling Joffrey that Sansa was his, by marriage or whatever. It was a whole thing.
That's later on though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, we sticking to this, bro. So now we got to speed it up. Ned and Jaime have a conversation, slight interaction, right? Yeah. And that leads to Cat and Ned getting the news about Jon Arryn from Maester Luwin.
But the letter came from Lysa Arryn.
There were two different ravens, right? Or that was the original one. No, yeah, Lysa Arryn was sending that's what had Catelyn so concerned, because the the Raven came from the Erie, or the Vale rather.
Maester Lewin brought it to them.
Right, but no, I'm saying like it came from
the Erie,
Lysa with Littlefinger, Robin, John's son, Robin, her son, that it came from. She was concerned that it came from her sister from the Erie, versus coming from King's Landing where they live, which the note said, or the Raven said, that they got out and they escaped, and that she felt that, or she believed that Jon Arryn was poisoned, and he didn't she name Cersei or the Lannisters?
She said the Lannisters.
She didn't say a specific name, but she said the Lannisters.
She said the Lannisters.
Got you. Right. So from there,
that's when Cat read the letter, threw it away, and then told Ned what was going on.
Right, and then Ned had a decision to make at that point, because by then, Robert had already asked him to be the hand of the king, and to come back to King's Landing. And then we jumped to a Dothraki wedding where they had that blood battle when them two motherfuckers fight, and then they start boning all out in the open. That shit where you say under the sun, and bro.
That's when that is also when we are introduced to Daenerys's dragon eggs for the first time. When she was presented dragon eggs at her wedding
for the first time, it was a gift, Illyrio. Yep. And at the same ceremony, we meet Sir Jorah Mormont of Bear Island. This is our first Mormont that we've met. We go meet a lot of courageous, wonderful Mormonts, right?
My favorite,
but this is the first one.
My favorite is obviously Lyanna, but
that's
another story.
It's hands down for 12 different reasons, bro.
Come on,
Lyanna Mormont was the Mormont of Bear Island that matters more than Jorah and Lord Commander.
If they have as ferocious as their lady,
exactly. We're good. We straight, right? I got it here. We meet the dragon eggs, which I think I guess Mormont came first, and then the dragon eggs came, because I took notes like second by second on some of this stuff, right?
Okay.
And then we see the party and the traveling party of Ned and Robert head to King's Landing. Ned says his goodbyes to Robb, Jon. That's where we get the scene where Ned tells Jon the next time he see him, he'll tell him about his mother.
About your mother.
And again, to clarify for everybody out there who we didn't clarify for, Ned Stark has a bastard son named Jon Snow, who he's raised for years with his other born kids. And
he's the same. He pretty much the same age as Ned Stark's oldest son.
He's right there with Robb. He's right between Robb and Sansa. Yeah.
He older than Sansa, but maybe like a month younger than Robb or something like that.
That's what I mean. He's right in between.
They were both infants at the same time.
At the same exact time. Yeah, exactly. So that entire storyline means a lot. We'll get into that, of course, as much as we can, as often as we can.
It's so much more to get into. This was only the first episode, literally, and
just catching our flow.
Minutes.
Yeah, and catching our flow. And this is just one episode that we going over. We're gonna pick up the pace a little bit. You know, we intended, in all honesty, how many episodes did we intend to go over this episode?
We intended on going for episode 1 through 3.
Yeah, we wanted to do all 3.
We'd have been on the hill for another hour at least.
Another hour and a half at least. Hell.
You know what I'm saying? So
it's all good though.
First of all, I just want to say this to our audience members, man. Thank you all so much for joining us and helping us get started with this, man. This is the first of many. As you can see, we really just trying to start it out and see how we gonna get the structure going, but we appreciate y'all for tapping in with us, man.
Definitely.
this is not the only thing that you're gonna be seeing from us. It's not just gonna be about Game of Thrones. It's not just gonna be about House of the Dragon. We're gonna be doing this on all different types of TV series. So we may be doing your favorite TV series at one point. You know what I mean? So hey, just
You never know.
keep rocking with us, man. You know what I'm saying?
Start with us, get that. And then again, what I'll say is specifically for any of our audience that we have, if you're clicking on this or you see us in clips that we're going to be flooding with clips. I'm letting you know right now it's coming. But my point is, if you've never heard of Game of Thrones, this is a good place for you still. If you've heard of it but never watched it, this is a place for you. If you've heard of it, watched it a little and never connected quite, this is the place for you. If you were a fan from day one, this is the place for you. If you are somebody that didn't give a doggone about Game of Thrones until 2 months ago, but you binged it like I did, and now you got the full story, this is the place for you. So the people that have read the novels, this is the place for you. We are going to incorporate everything we can to encompass an overall audience of anyone that has ever even said the words Game of Thrones, that has watched 2 seconds of Game of Thrones, that has an opinion. You may disagree with me about what I feel, but we're going to start off with the facts. And as we go, you're going to be able to interact. Let us know how you feel. We appreciate anybody that'll view any of our content. That's first and foremost. And then I'm going to shoot it over to Dino.
Hey, first of all, we would both be remiss if we didn't mention the ending of this first episode.
Saving that, I think, yeah, this is a perfect timing for that. Exactly.
You know
so you want to jump into what? Well, let's preface one simple thing that I want to say, and then you take over the rest of the episode as far as the description. Okay.
Okay.
Bran, which is the second to youngest of 6 Stark kids.
Mm-hmm.
Was told early in the episode by his mother about climbing the towers and the walls. She felt it was unsafe. He wasn't ready for it. He's a little boy. That was her baby, so she didn't want any harm to come from him. But Bran was a hell of a climber, as we all know, right? He had nothing to worry about, and he had his thing. He did his thing. And then at the end of the episode, what happens?
He was always described as sure-footed by the maester.
Okay.
Sure-footed is like, somebody who is like terribly well balanced.
What happened in the scene though?
Terribly well balanced. Pretty much happened in the scene. He was climbing the walls and ended up stumbling on a opening, like a window of the wall. And what he seen in that window was the twins who we mentioned earlier in this podcast, Jaime and Cersei Lannister, being intimate with one another. Yes, I know what I just said. The twins were being intimate.
They was boning. It was incest. He was knocking her down, hitting her doggy style, and go ahead. Don't get tell them what happened, bro.
Well, you know what? Brother and sister were in there having sex, and the young boy who climbs these walls every single day, all day, has never had a misstep, never failed from it, never had a problem. Seen these people creeped up on him like, oh my God, that's the king and the queen, the king's wife, the queen, and her brother, twins having sex. He saw this and was startled, and he tried to sneak away, but before he could run away, Jaime Lannister came over there and grabbed him by his shirt and said, "Man, what is you doing over here?" And the queen, so in distraught, she like, "Oh my God, he seen us." Jaime Lannister like, "I know he seen us, man. So what we gonna do?" Jaime Lannister ended up pushing that little boy out of the tower, and not you heard me say tower, so it's like 1,000 feet from the
realistically it was like 50, 150, 70
feet. It was like at least 70 feet. It was at least
flat back though. The straight.
Think of falling from a second story house.
You remember what Jaime said? Dang, I'm too close. You remember what Jaime said as he pushed him?
Of course I do. The things I do for love.
What he said.
Before he pushed the little boy out the window, he said, "The things I do for love," and he pushed him and proceeded to go continue to have sex with his sister. And that was the end of the episode. That was the end, the final scene from episode 1, season 1. And I don't see how anybody could not be intrigued after this. How is he not being free?
I can understand kind of falling off a little bit and falling into the a lot of talking and not a lot of action, or it's not something specific that you're looking for where they fighting battles and whatever, action to that level. But yeah, I agree. It was no way after seeing that the final scene, because he fell and the credits came and the theme music played and that was it. So to not want to know what happens next, I don't get it. I know it's possible. I don't get it. I wasn't that, because that helped me watch the next 65 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So that covers season 1, episode 1 of Game of Thrones, entitled Winter is Coming.
And we ain't even give y'all all the, like, every single detail. Like, he got like an hour worth of notes just on episode 1. So we could have.
Some of this stuff would annoy you how detailed it is, bro.
We could have went all the way in, like, but we just gonna give y'all a little something. You dig what I'm saying? Don't show Tone, put it down. Don't show him nothing.
I'm just saying, man.
Put it up.
We gonna give y'all everything y'all want Game of Thrones related.
Hey, man. So look, just make sure y'all tune in with us, man. I want to give y'all my YouTube platform and my what y'all see it right here at the bottom of the screen. Follow me at Sheldon Calhoun 95, and also make sure y'all tap in with my boy Tone _Roy on IG, and you can find my man at Scocios Entertainment on YouTube. That's how do you spell Scocios, Tone?
SCOIOS Entertainment. And then make sure you follow at Calhoun Studios on YouTube. You can search up just Sheldon Calhoun and Calhoun Studios pop up. But make sure you subscribe to both of those YouTube pages. We're going to have content. Again, we're going to start off with Game of Thrones because we love Game of Thrones, House of Dragon. It's just something that we can have. Again, we talked about one episode for an hour and 2 minutes. We fully intended to do 3 episodes to recap 3. As we move along, we'll get better at this and we'll get that information out. We'll give our facts, we'll give our opinions, we'll get the descriptions and the recaps. Join us soon for the next the episode 2 of the First of His Name podcast. But we will be expanding entertainment wise. So from a lot of the other series that you would consider the top, whatever comedy, horror, action,
whatever you can think of, like
any
that
you can think of. Any of your favorites, your top 10 favorite, whatever, we're more than likely going to cover. This is just a start because we both love Game of Thrones. And I'm going to just say this. Shout out to Jabron Gaither, my cousin, big bro to Sheldino, the other co-host of First of His Name podcast, G-Dot, will be joining us at a later date. Yeah, he was temporarily indisposed. And then again, another note before we get out of here, as we referred to how Sheldon got connected to Game of Thrones and how I got connected to Game of Thrones, both of our Game of Thrones tree branches evolution starts with him. You get what I mean? He told me about it for years, and it was only until after I watched it and had to come back to him and say, man, you're right. I wish I'd have watched that 5 years ago. I wish I'd have caught on sooner. But he is another co-host. Jabron is another co-host that we're going to have in. Hopefully we can get him in on episode 2. And I look forward to the next episode. So remember, follow Sheldon Calhoun at Sheldon Calhoun 95 on IG. Also at Calhoun Studios on YouTube. Sheldon Calhoun on Facebook. It's not at the bottom there, but we'll get that together. Follow me, Tone Roy, on IG. Also follow Scocios Entertainment, Scocios SCOCIOS. I'll explain later what that means, but it means something to me. So Scocios Entertainment, Calhoun Studios. That's what it is.
Tune in, man. You know what I'm saying? Big shout out to George R.R. Martin for making this possible. You dig what I'm talking about?
Oh, we'll have him on the show by episode 20.
Hey, man.
What did I say? You did? Hey, we go. Hey, I'm telling you, we gonna get Kit, We go get
man.
Macy.
We
Go
get
get
Amelia.
Peter. Oh man, Peter Dinklage, bro.
Get Natalie Emmanuel on here.
Oh, now see, you in love. You gonna
Get
fall in
Natalie
love.
Emmanuel on here.
You
Get her. Get her. If you can get her on here, boy, I swear to God, boy. Yep.
All right, that's the end of this episode. He is Sheldon Calhoun.
And this is my man, Roy Tone.
That's what it is.
And that's what it's going to be, goddammit. We appreciate y'all.
We out of here. Peace.